Welcome to Prospecting Purpose, where we explore mining's role in shaping a sustainable, socially just, and brighter future. I'm Liz Friel, your host for the series, with a rotating guest on every episode. Have you noticed how often mining's well-intentioned engagement and community development efforts still leave stakeholders frustrated? How often they feel excluded and distrusting? Do you wonder how technology can be leveraged to overcome this, fostering collaboration, trust, and better development outcomes? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Joining me as my co-host, we have Tracy Cooper, Executive Director and founder of the nonprofit Mining Dialogues 360 in Johannesburg, South Africa. Having previously worked with organizations like the Gates Foundation, the United Nations, and the International Renewable Energy Agency, her leadership these days focuses on harnessing emerging technology to foster a much-needed multi-stakeholder collaboration to overcome socioeconomic challenges linked to the mining sector together. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you. Very pleased to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
It's lovely to have you. As Executive Director of Mining Dialogues 360, you have been deep in this journey of creating spaces for effective collaboration for over a decade. You've really built a reputation as a convener, a facilitator, and quite a respected contributor to the industry's thinking regarding our role in socioeconomic development. So in what you've been seeing, what are some of our biggest challenges and barriers to really meaningfully collaborating in regards to integrated development planning?
I mean, a lot of information is in silos, and this is within companies as well as externally. There's a huge amount of information sitting with a lot of aligned organizations like RMI and the global funds and certainly, ICMM and other industry bodies. The communities frequently talk about their lack of access to information. And this perpetuates the distrust legacy, and it adds fuel to that fire. There's this suspicion that everyone else is seeing information that they're not seeing, and so they're not prepared to participate meaningfully in any kind of decision-making process. And that leads to the whole issue around transparency and how you make information easily understandable.
Yes. And share it, I guess, also. So
yeah.
One would be then, how do we make this information understandable to various types of stakeholders? And then to how do we share that in a way that is accessible to those people? So, the emerging and exponential technologies can be leveraged for fostering more dialogue and information sharing, promoting transparency and understanding. For example, I read recently about something that Glencore was doing at Mount Isa in Australia. They developed the smartphone app with online real-time air quality monitoring data that had a portal for their communities. And I presume maybe they're not the only ones to be doing this, but I just thought that was so interesting because that is very much taking a step towards gathering that data and then sharing it in a way that is accessible and meaningful to communities who want to be seeing it.
Yeah, we looked around a lot at technologies, and it was quite shocking to find that most of the softwares that were in development or being used were very much business-driven.
Which isn't necessarily accessible to communities.
Yeah, so there's a massive gap in between. And I think we get so caught up in our very driven, frantic, technological lives that we forget how important it is to bring those people into these spaces and access their wisdom and knowledge rather than impose our thinking on them.
Yeah. And that brings me to wanting to ask you how you apply those principles in the Socioeconomic Technology Initiative. So that's something you're involved in that leverages data analytics and machine learning. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, the Sociotechnology Initiative, we call it SETI for short, really was born out of the frustrations of constantly finding these barriers to information being raised in our dialogue processes. And we've spent the last 2 years basically building a bespoke qualitative data ingestion system. It's designed as an open access platform for all stakeholders to use. It's built from the ground up which I think is the unique feature. It's driven by information that is aggregated and arising from the communities themselves. So the real power of SETI is by combining social and economic data to hopefully create a much wider view of a landscape. The next level of this tool is to take it to a point where community people can directly input their information into the system. And that way, we intend for the system to reach past what I would call the traditional filters that exist in communities, be it a traditional leader, a political figure, someone with a particular agenda, and those are very often people who attend consultation meetings hosted by a mining company. And so you're not reaching the wider community members who would never participate in those consultations.
So that's quite powerful then to addressing marginalized and vulnerable groups as well.
Yes, absolutely. So you can identify that people in this area between these ages are flagging or talking about this issue. This is starting to bubble up. So you can segregate the data by who, when, how. You can geospatially locate it. You can link it to other channels of information that people use, and you can start to, through an aggregated process, pick up issues that are arising.
Right.
And the hope is that this gives all stakeholders, but especially companies and local governments and people with the resources to intervene, the opportunity to be proactive before situations become out of control.
So that can make an incredible difference to your social risk management and brings feedback mechanisms to a whole new level.
Yes, absolutely.
And I suppose the same platform can also be leveraged around this question of how do we contribute more meaningfully and impactfully to local community development?
Yes, absolutely. The vision is for this tool to make collaboration regionally, locally, and nationally more effective in terms of development planning frameworks, to be addressing the actual needs as identified through the communities themselves. And if they're not directly involved in co-creating and designing for their future, then we're looking at another continuous cycle of failed local economic development projects, sustainability initiatives that just get recycled with different names and new jargon.
Indeed. So in these couple of years that you've been rolling it out, who have you found that it is most meaningful for?
I mean, certainly from a business perspective, we spoke earlier about risk mitigation to sites and productivity, and also the health and well-being of workers and the communities that they live in. There's a big impact to be had around how their social spend and therefore their social license to operate can be meaningfully quantified so that it is assisting as an authenticity tool, I suppose, in some way, or a transparency accountability tool for your ESG criteria. I think it will reduce duplication in terms of spend. A lot of mining companies have overlapping communities that they're all trying to do things for and with. And so there's an opportunity to rather come together and as a collective work with the community in terms of what needs to be done, rather than what are we doing to make ourselves look better.
Right.
I think from the CSO and NGO environmental perspective, having access to such a nuanced level of data and geospatially referenced. From a governmental perspective, I think it has huge possibilities for interdepartmental collaboration.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm super excited to hear what comes next.
We have been doing some pilot work in the Northern Cape. We now need to go to the next level, where we move from our own internal architecture, design, and build. And we very fortunately have a partnership with the University of Witwatersrand's Wits Mining Institute, who are doing a lot of excellent work in the digital mining space. And I mean, the big vision for SETI is ultimately that any person in a community or anybody anywhere could access the platform on their smartphone, on their desktop, on their iPad, in whatever location, and immediately be able to get a snapshot of what is sort of currently going on in an area. So we're looking for partners to join us on this. This project is far bigger than one small organization. And we're looking to learn from other organizations that may have expertise or experience with particular aspects of what we're trying to do. And if they could bring their knowledge to bear on a public good such as this.
Brilliant. Tracy, I wanted to ask you, when you think about the future of mining's contribution to sustainable development, what are you afraid of and what excites you?
I'm most afraid that we're never meaningfully going to transform the organizations that operate in that space to see their role as one actor in a landscape that has an important contribution to make, not as the actor that makes the decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need a new economic paradigm that really embraces an ethical path and has the moral courage to lead it. And I meet a lot of people within the industry who honestly believe and are trying to make that difference through their jobs, through their work. So I have faith that there are incredible human beings in these organizations that have those value systems in their hearts. And if they were encouraged more to live by those value systems and bring those ethics into the workplace, that it could be really transformative.
I'm speaking to my heart. So another question that I like to ask everyone on the show, the show is called Prospecting Purpose. I want to ask you what purpose means to you.
My purpose, I think, is really the joy that I get from joining the dots, from seeing the possibilities that arise through the amazing conversations that we're involved in, and helping people to find those solutions, helping them to find each other to create those solutions. And we're really starting to leverage our networks and our abilities to bring people together to catalyze change. There's never been a better time than now. I mean, COVID-19, the pandemic that spread around the world, has squarely shone the spotlight on the inordinate inequalities and weaknesses in our social systems, in our world, and how we address these things. These things can't be swept under the carpet anymore.
Well, that's certainly an inspiring vision. Thanks for sharing. Well, that's all for today's episode. This is Liz Friel on Prospecting Purpose. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Tracy, for being my co-host today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking with you.
If you want to learn more, check out the show notes for links on all that we covered today. See you next time.